A tangram isn't that hard. You're just not thinking about it right. You need to be more flexible. You should be open to the idea that what looks like one thing might just be a small part of something completely different. The outside shape doesn't always give you a good idea of what's inside. Just like that. Well, I think that according to legend, the tangram happened when someone dropped a square tile and it broke into 7 pieces. When he tried to put them back together, he discovered that he could shape it into many different things. Well, if it weren't for that, wouldn't the tile just be a boring tile like all the other tiles? But because of what happened, it's now a famous puzzle that's been seen across the world. Sometimes, in order to find a greater purpose, you have to be broken first. I don't think we get the luxury of choosing what happens to us. I never said that. We don't get to decide what happens to us, but we can always decide how to respond to it. That's a stereotype, and you know it. Stop choking! I told you, I'm not interested in that sort of thing. Don't worry, you're not going to lose me anytime soon.
Good morning. I hope you slept well. You're our guest after all. Well, there's not much I can do about that. You have to admit it's a lot nicer than police custody, though. Confessions can be recanted. It's best to have the most solid case possible in situations like this. I'm sure they'll use my brother too, but the fact remains that you're the one who solved the case. That makes you the strongest witness they have. You'd be surprised what expensive lawyers are capable of doing. We need the most airtight case possible. Miko might seem like a relaxed guy, but he's thorough. Yeah, Miko Lajgursky. You think so? Anyway, you should thank me for convincing him to let you stay with us. With us, you get a nice bed, good food, and...
Aki, I got the coffee!
coffee.
Be careful.
Oh.
Ooh, nice save. That's Li Mei.
That's Li Mei for you.
She's a quiet child. Quiet child. Quiet? Anyway, there's too much going on in her head, so it's a little hard on her to maintain conversations.
Not exactly. It's a little more complicated than that.
Why don't we talk about it on the way there? To speak with our client, of course. Glad you're awake. Did you enjoy your sleep? At least you're honest. Should we have gotten you something stronger than a triple shot? We have a long way to go to meet with our client, and he's the sort of guy who will get very fussy if we're late. You're overflowing with questions. I suppose I can't blame you. You're not the only one with questions, though. In fact, you're a pretty big question mark yourself. Let's make a deal, shall we? You ask a question, then I ask a question. We'll trade answers. You're a kid too, aren't you? We're a special investigation agency. Our work isn't always as exciting as corporate espionage and murder. More often than not, we're just snapping photos of cheating lovers. As for why the police trust us, that's sort of a weird story. That's for another question, though. Okay, my turn. What's your name? You do realize how suspicious it makes you look when you hide it, right? Things are only as complicated as you want them to be, but I respect your privacy. We're going to have to call you something, though. Is Kansei okay? Roughly translated, it means strong emotions. It's sort of a play on Kansei. We call the ability to feel other people's emotions Kansei. It's like a super sensitivity. Since you have a type of Kansei, we can call you Kangai. Kan-gai. Get it? I never claimed to be good at picking names. I'll see what I can do. Is that your next question? He may never complained about it. Now that's definitely a new question. Small estate out in the countryside. It belongs to one Mr. William Otten. Got it in one. Yep. Well, until she was murdered, that is. We reported to him yesterday about what happened. That and the fact that Miss Bergstrom claimed a third party was also interested in the information. He didn't sound too happy about that, so he ordered us to come see him today and give a full report in person. I can't blame him. His entire company's at stake here. I hope you don't mind coming with us. Since you were there yesterday, it seems only natural to bring you along. Who knows? Word is that he really hates the city. His assistant said that he rarely leaves his house, conducting most meetings via satellite. Rich people are eccentric. Comes with a job description, I think. Maybe it is. Alright, next question. Where are you from, anyway? I'd rather you don't lie about it. Miko told me about it. Yesterday, you told him that you were from LA, but when he asked you about precincts, you didn't correct him. In Los Angeles, police work districts, not precincts. I'm surprised he didn't cuff you on the spot for lying to him. Actually, no, I'm not. And before that? Of course. Go ahead. All of us have a sort of Kansei like you do. We can all sense thoughts and feelings to some extent. Li Mei's Kansei is probably the purest form of them all. She experiences the emotions of everyone around her. Everyone. If you're happy, she's happy. If you're sad, she's sad. Everyone else's emotions are constantly streaming into her mind. She has to spend a lot of her energy sorting out which feelings are hers and which aren't. My turn now. Where did you live before Los Angeles? Oh, am I really that predictable? Not going to answer. What? Here. 3 years. I suppose that makes sense. We've only been here for 2 years. Well, I guess that was my question. Your turn. We stopped the assassination of a visiting dignitary. Everyone makes a big deal about it, but it was sort of a fluke. Naoki was trailing a businessman and secretary who were putting in extra hours at an expensive hotel. He saw the assassin, thought it was suspicious, and called me in. We intercepted the assassin, saved the day, and apparently that makes us trustworthy heroes. Seriously. So, you're the boy with a Kansei that allows you to experience the final moments of any dead body you touch. You should be used to the ridiculous by now.
You missed it.
Oops!
What? Ah!
Sorry, missed a turn.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yep, just a few minutes now. Anyway, what were we talking about? Right, Mr. Otten. He's one of those self-made men you hear about all the time, built Otten Engineering himself from the ground up. But he's also ridiculously secretive. No interviews, hardly any TV appearances. His assistant, Sophia Millerson, does most of that. This is it. Yeah, it kinda does. I guess since he always stays inside, he doesn't care what it looks like on the outside.
Are you the representatives from the agency?
Yep, I'm Aki Mizutani. You must be Sophia Millerson. We spoke on the phone.
You're not exactly what I pictured.
Being a private investigator involves having an appearance that doesn't stand out, ma'am.
Truly. Well, come in. Mr. Otten seems unusually eager to speak with you. Are these your associates?
They are. This is Lee Mei, and this is my brother Naoki.
And he is?
That would be Kansei.
Kansei? Unusual.
Sorry, it's the best I could do on short notice. You should have given me something to work with.
It's a retina detector. The house takes a shot of the eyes of anyone who passes through. It's useful for identification purposes. There are other sensors around the house that also capture your retina image. The house can remember your preferences and adjust things like lighting and temperature as soon as you enter the room. Mr. Otten lives here because he enjoys the peace and quiet being away from the city affords him. This house, however, has the most cutting-edge security possible, including quite a few innovations not yet available on the market. Now, please don't dawdle. Mr. Otten's other guest is already here waiting for you.
Other guests?
Oh, great. I should have known you'd be here.
Miko, to what do we owe the pleasure?
Detective Gursky played a major role in the apprehension of the murderer yesterday. It's only natural that he'd be invited back here by Mr. Autumn.
Yeah, I was actually there, unlike some people.
Please make yourselves comfortable. Mr. Autumn is finishing up on a conference call. He'll see you once it's finished.
Ooh, can we explore the house?
If you wish, the house currently logs you all as guests, so any doors you are authorized to pass through will open automatically.
Let's go!
Okay.
Oh! I'm so sorry I'm late. I got lost on the way here. Do you know how easy it is to miss that turn to get here? You must be Liam Otten. I've heard so much about you. It's okay. I'm not here to talk about all those rumors. Rich people always get the worst of it, don't they? And even if they are true, you're free to do what you want with your life. No one should judge you for your choices, right? Oh, right! Marissa Klein from Modern Trends. I'm here for the interview. Did your uncle not tell you about it? Pretty! Is it real? Oh, hello. Marissa Klein.
Yes, I heard.
Oh, good. So we can skip the formalities and just chat?
I'm afraid I'm only here for business, ma'am.
Oh, don't call me that. It makes me feel so old. Or are you supposed to be all formal with me because you work here?
I don't work here.
A guest? Even more interesting. Are you an art fan?
Please refrain from touching the art. Miss Klein, I presume?
Yep. Sorry, I'm...
You're 2 hours late. Mr. Autumn has other business to attend to now.
Hang on! I called and said I'd be late, though.
I don't recall receiving such a call.
You didn't tell her? You're the one who answered the phone when I called. Why didn't you tell her? Wait, what's your name? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry! I thought you were Liam Otten!
Miss Klein, you may have called ahead, but the fact remains that you are very late, and Mr. Otten has a strict schedule.
Wait, this is my first major interview. Is there any way I can squeeze it in today?
Come with me.
Oh, thank you!
Kansei? Did Aki pick that name for you? She's notoriously bad at naming things. When she was a girl, she had a cat that was born with only a stub for a tail. She named the cat Stubtail. I'm sorry you're stuck with those kids right now. If I had my way, I wouldn't group you in with them. They all belong to the government. You know that, right?
Miko, are you gossiping about me again?
I'd rather you don't feed our friend Kansei here any misinformation.
Well, I haven't lied to him if that's what you mean.
Mr. Otten will see you now.
Of course! It'll be a winner, so be sure to look out for it. Bang! Hey, Sophie, you don't mind if I have a look around, interview the staff, and other nonsense, right?
Please make it quick.
Righto!
Shall we get going? Mr. Otten, the investigators you requested are here.
Good, good. No, no, go away. Get out! Get him out!
What did you do?
Sophia, get rid of him!
I'll take care of it right away, sir. Please follow me this way, Kansei. Please follow me this way, Kansei. I apologize for Mr. Otten's sudden outburst. He's prone to unnatural mood swings based on unidentified provocation. We can proceed with your discussion after he is less agitated. Mr. Otten called for you. Once he settles down, he'll want to speak with you again. Until then, please make yourself at home while I go to work out the details of this visit with your associates.
Are you okay? Yeah, sorry about that. Just sympathizing with you. What do you think?
It's no good. Mr. Otten's refusing to come out. Detective Gursky is still up there trying to talk to him, but he won't listen to reason. No, I can't think of anything I've read that's like this.
I don't know what you did, but you've got Mr. Otten bunkered up and they're pretty good. Yeah, I saw. It doesn't make any sense, though. He seemed pretty insistent about talking with us today. Lee May, what do you think?
He's scared.
Yeah, we figured that much out already. Anything else? What about when he first reacted?
He was not surprised.
Whoa. Hey, I didn't know we were having guests today. Way to go. I don't know how you managed to get 3 at once. That's a pretty sweet haul of chicks, man.
But I'm a guy.
Well, crap. Ah, well, I've seen worse. Let's see. A bunch of people hanging out in the lobby for no reason. That's an easy one. Uncle called you out here, and now he's having a hissy fit and making you wait. Am I right?
Got it in one. And you must be Liam Otten.
I'm Liam, alright? But who are you? You definitely don't look like business partners. Uncle's not the kind of guy who lets just anyone enter. He's all crazy paranoid that way.
If he's as paranoid as you say, why are you here?
I'm family. It's not like he's got a choice.
Ah, so you're visiting your uncle today?
No, I live here.
Really? That's even cooler. Must be kind of boring for you, though.
Huh?
I was looking around earlier and nearly all the doors are locked.
That's because you're a visitor. You don't get many access privileges. I'm allowed in, like, every room in the house.
Like? So, not all of them.
Yeah, well... There's like a lock on his office in the security room. Those rooms are pointless anyway.
Oh, well, if that's all. Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't suppose I could ask you for a favor.
What?
Well, seeing as your uncle seems to be hanging us both out to dry, maybe we could at least spend the time doing something interesting.
Like,
I don't know. Maybe you could show me around. We could poke around your uncle's precious privacy while he's busy being difficult.
I guess I've got nothing better to do with my time. Sure, why not?
Aki.
Split up and explore what you can. Something about this doesn't settle well with me at all, and we might not get another chance.
Yeah, Aki has a way with people. She's persuasive. She uses her Kansei to push someone's thoughts in the direction she wants. Nothing that powerful, just subtle suggestions, like a whisper in the back of your mind.
She can't. Those with Kansei are more sensitive. You'd know it's her voice.
To us, it sounds like she's speaking directly, but normal people only feel like they've just had a random impulse. Nothing. We should probably get going. I'd rather not split up if we don't have to. I don't do well Well, I got stuck in an elevator once because I couldn't figure out how to get it to go to another floor.
It's true.
But what if something happens? Really? Oh.
No.
I'd rather not go down there, if it's okay. Then I'll take the one on the left.
Yes.
Oh, Kansei! I'm sorry about before. I just assumed you were Liam because you look like you're his age. So what are you doing here? No, I meant here, at Mr. Otten's place. You can't possibly be a business associate of his. Work? What kind of work do you do? Then we're the same! You and I are both people who try to uncover the truth. So you're here to investigate Liam, aren't you? I knew it was only a matter of time before Mr. Otten got tired of his nephew's lies. Just between you and me, I really think all those rumors about Liam are the least of what he's done. Well, not yet. But I'm definitely going to find it. That's the real reason I came here, you see. I want to see if this family has any dirty little secrets that I can expose. Once I write a hard-hitting article about all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes here, everyone will see what a great journalist I am. We could work together, you know. I'll even list you as one of my sources. It'll help your career, won't it? Great! We can cover so much ground if we split up. I bet if we explore right now, we can find something good. Whoops! Sorry, darling. Didn't see you there. Good idea.
She's strange. The door won't open. No guests allowed.
Oh, hey. Find anything? Well, no reporter on this side. That room is full of Chinese artifacts. It's like a museum in there. Well, should we keep exploring the house? Whoa, are you okay?
It's happening.
What's going on?
Scared. He's scared.
Who? Con guy?
Whoa, kid, calm down. Mr. Rotten has been unusually quiet for a while. Are you sure everything is okay? Is there any way we can force ourselves in?
It's certainly unorthodox. I don't think Mr. Alton would be pleased.
I think he'd be even less pleased if he needed medical attention and we didn't get it to him.
Very well. The only way to open the office without express permission is to reset the security system.
And how exactly does one do that?
Someone needs to reboot the system manually. Then someone else has to enter the restart code within 10 seconds of the system being rebooted.
Sounds complicated.
It's meant to provide maximum security for Mr. Alton. I'm the only one here who knows the code, so someone else will have to go to the basement to reset the power. It is, but I can open it from here. Once you head down there, everything will be fine.
Alright, Naoki, go reset it.
What? Why me?
You?
Yeah, he could do it.
Sure, why not?
Alright, the reboot process is fairly simple. Just flip all the switches off, then on. Then push the reset button.
Sorry, kid. There's nothing you can do now. You were right about Mr. Otten. He's dead.
He was already dead when we got there. Sophia tried to revive him, but...
I stopped her. It was too risky. It's not important. Sophia, I know you're upset, but we need to contact the police. My phone isn't getting any signal.
All signal is blocked off in this place. Mr. Otten's orders, of course.
Is there a landline I can use then?
In there. I'll show you.
He's gone.
Well... Migolash checked his pulse, but he was already dead. Yeah, she was going to use CPR, but Detective Gursky stopped her. He said that Mr. Otten looked like he had been poisoned, and she might get poisoned herself if she tried mouth-to-mouth. We should tell Aki what happened.
She's coming.
Hey, what happened? The lights went out for a moment. Died? How? Did you read his last moments? What about you? Did you see it?
I got it.
Good, then we'll take a look at it later.
The police are on their way. It's a bit of a drive for them, so we'll have to sit tight until then. I suggest we all wait downstairs. As I don't have any jurisdiction here, it's only a suggestion. But it's the best option if you want to stay unnoticed.
Always the gentleman. Nothing. Anyway, we should probably follow his suggestion and head downstairs. We wouldn't want to get into any more trouble than we already are.
It's not you.
It means that Miko shouldn't talk so much.
truly want to know? But do you want one? We're on parole for crimes past. Mikolaj Gursky is our parole officer.
Glad you could make it. Did you take a wrong turn somewhere? You okay? Miss Millerson wasn't feeling well, so Naoki offered to make some tea for her. They both went to the kitchen. Aki said she had to use the restroom, although I suspect she just wants to look around. And I'm never entirely sure what Lee May is doing. The house is in lockdown right now, so it won't let any of us leave until Sophia unlocks it. I guess you can roam around or do whatever you feel like. What? Well, that's not true. I don't know where you've been all these years or why, but that look in your eyes is still the same. The one that says you're already trying to figure everything out. It's like watching someone who just started work on a puzzle. You're digging through the pieces and looking to build a frame, but you don't have much yet. I doubt you would. We've never met in person. I sure heard a lot about you, though. Both of you. Not enough, apparently. I thought you were dead. We all did. Do you have any idea how much work was put into finding you? You know, back in the day, I couldn't go 10 minutes without hearing your names. Oh, they're so great. What heroes these kids are. Why can't we have such helpful people here? What a joke. When we found her body, the first person they looked for was you, but you were nowhere to be found. At first, they thought you'd been kidnapped. As days passed, they thought maybe you'd been killed. When I saw you yesterday, I thought you had finally come back to do something worthwhile again. What about your sister's murder? You're the only witness, but you ran away. Why? Things are only as complicated as you want them to be. Then maybe you should listen. Sorry, kid, I'm sworn to uphold the law. Even if you don't want me getting involved, I kinda have to. We'll talk about this more later, but I promise that this isn't over. I got a call this morning about my report from yesterday. You've already caused a disturbance with your return. Are you kidding? She was the first. They'd find you eventually. It was only a matter of time. Yeah, I'd say so. If it weren't for Aki's insistence that you stay with her, I'm sure they'd already have come to take you back. Oh, I don't know. Why don't you try actually having a backbone this time around? The present only exists because of the past, you know. But I see your point. Figuring out the cause of death for Mr. Auten does take priority right now. I'll be upstairs. Come talk to me if you find out anything. I don't know, kid. I can't just march in and declare it's a murder without any evidence. For all we know, he committed suicide. Hard to say. His reaction when he saw you certainly was unusual. It's not a level of fear you see in most people. He very likely could have done something foolish in response. Now, I never said that. There are a lot of things that might drive someone to suicide, but in the end, it's still the decision of the individual. Back then, didn't you... Well, technically, no. They're not on record as having committed any crimes. Handler is more like it. I'm supposed to make sure they don't cause any trouble. That'll be the day. Hustling, mostly. The twins ran a lot of cons. Aki's got some sort of charm about her that makes people trust her. She's really manipulative, and her life is nothing but moral gray. Naoki's a good kid, but he'll do anything his sister tells him to do. And he's a fast learner. He can pick up on pretty much anything. They came to Edgewater 2 years ago and wreaked havoc for a good year before we finally caught them. But Aki is Aki. Somehow, she managed to cut a deal. Clean records in turn for their special services. So now, the government uses them as investigators, spies, or anything else requiring a quick mind and an expendable body. It's not an inaccurate statement. And on that note, be careful about what she says. She's not a liar, but she likes to tell misleading truths. I'm afraid that's classified information. Talk to you later.
Whoa! Sorry, dude. Never seen you around before. You're not one of Liam's friends, are you? Oh, good! I can't stand Liam's friends. Don't tell him I said that. Kevin, I'm the IT guy. I run all the security here. Got a blip in my system saying the power went out, so I came here to see what happened. Sophia hasn't been answering my calls. Master code unlocks any door. And who are you again? Wicked. So Big Will is finally gonna bring down the hammer on Liam in his little nightlife. Passed away? As in, dead? Whoa. Sorry, man. This is just... Wow, I can't believe it. It's kinda unreal, you know? I just saw him yesterday and he looked fine. Well, as fine as a guy his age can look. Well, as fine as a super paranoid guy his age can look. Well, as fine as a super paranoid guy who drinks a lot at his age. So, what happened? Holy cow! Murdered? I didn't see that one coming. I guess that's what he meant. Mr. Otten never liked to talk about his history. Anytime someone asked, he'd always say that he buried his past a long time ago. Once, when he'd had a little too much to drink, he told me that he was afraid that one day his past would come back and return the favor. Man, dead? Really? Sorry, that's just too weird. I'm still having a hard time believing it. So, are the police gonna question us all and stuff? Well, I guess I'll hang out here until then. I'll be in the security room if you need me. It's the first door on the left here in this hallway.
Oh, Kangai! Did you find out anything about Mr. Otten or Liam? What? Are you kidding? Are you sure? What happened? Murdered? I suppose that shouldn't come as much of a surprise. William Otten is not a popular man. His business practices are already reprehensible, and there have been rumors of unethical treatment of some of his test subjects. That's why I came. I was hoping I'd be able to uncover something about what he might be doing. I write for a humanitarian blog dedicated to unearthing the hidden cruelties of this world. We've covered everything from torturing prisoners of war to animal abuse. No, that part's true. I found that being a journalist for a magazine of fluff pieces puts people at ease. It's just that I also happen to run a blog that publishes a lot of humanitarian pieces. I guess it's my best attempt at being a hero. Well, don't quote me on this, but I got a tip that he headed up a series of government-funded experiments conducted on unborn children. A group of women were asked to volunteer for a sleep study, but the study was just a cover to administer an experimental drug. The effects weren't immediately evident, though. The drugs were meant to genetically alter any children that the women might have. The exact nature of the alteration is unknown, unfortunately. Most of the women suffered miscarriages, probably as a result of the drug. A little over 20 years ago, most of these women were in college, struggling to pay for tuition. They were offered a large amount of money for participating in a sleep study, and they leapt at the opportunity. As the years passed, each discovered she was unable to have children. Most couldn't even get pregnant, but several had miscarriages. One gave birth prematurely. The child only lived for 3 days. He was definitely part of it. As far as I can tell, he was one of the people running the experiment. I don't know who ordered it or what his role was beyond that. Everything I have is circumstantial, though. I've tracked down the surviving women in the study, but unless I can find Mr. Otten with something, I have no real proof. One of them died shortly after the study took place. Complications during birth. Are you all right? You don't look so well. Ah, those. Well, recently, word's been going around that Liam Otten is involved in dogfighting. Not to mention extremely cruel. I'm fairly certain he was just getting fed up with Liam's antics. It's one thing to dismiss underage drinking, but the heat from Liam's participation in animal cruelty is bad publicity he didn't need. I heard he was planning on cutting Liam from his will completely. As far as I can tell, no. But you'd really have to ask someone more knowledgeable than I. Sure thing. See you soon.
What's up? Yeah, I did. What do you want? Sure, why not? Since Mr. Otten hired you, you'd probably be allowed in here anyway. Welcome to my Fortress of Solitude. This is the command center for the entire house. Not everything. Mr. Otten's office is strictly off limits. Very private, you know. No one knows what he does in there. As if it isn't obvious. Mr. Otten never likes to be far from his booze. His solution to anything stressful is to drink it away. Of course, he tries to hide it because it's not very professional, but every time he walks out of that room, he reeks of alcohol. You're kidding, right? You must be new around here. Mr. Otten's infamous around these parts. He's a ruthless sort of dude. Any little guy tries to start something new, he crushes them, poaches employees, spreads rumors, heck, he's even brought in the courts multiple times. He'll say that these other companies are infringing on his trademark or something equally stupid. Of course, that's only the stuff we know about. If you ask me, he's got more than just dirty business practices going on. I mean, seriously, look at this place. No one builds a house like this in the middle of nowhere unless he's got something to hide. If he's not doing something illegal, I'll eat my motherboard. The money. Duh. Never actually witnessed him do anything illegal, and maintaining his security system is harmless. So even if he goes down, I can't be held responsible for anything. Yeah, pretty much. Why, should I? Mr. Otten offered it to me. Well, yeah, he handpicks everyone who works for him. I graduated in the top of my class at a university he funds. He offered this job to me straight out of college. Yeah, that's the word for it. You mean all the drinking and gambling, or extra stupid stuff? Oh, the dog fights then. Well, yeah. I'm the reason Mr. Otten found out in the first place. He asked me to track Liam's movements on his phone. Guess he didn't trust him. There's a surprise. Anyway, I noticed Liam was spending more and more time in a corner of town that's not really hot on the usual party clubs, so I did some more digging. Found out that Liam was watching dogfights, and in some cases, funding them himself. Big Will was furious when I told him. When you showed up, I thought he had hired a private investigator to get some proof. I guess it's kind of a moot point now. Come by if you want to ask me anything else.
I don't know. Does it bother you? Death. He was very scared. Yes, but even though I felt his fear, I knew that I was not scared. I'm not scared, but I still feel scared. Does that mean I'm bothered or not bothered? Thank you. Naoki is scared. Oh, I apologize. Sophia is sad. She feels as if there is no hope, but there is also relief. Marissa is scared and disappointed. There's so much emotion inside of her. It's all flowing at the same time. She wants to be happy, but she also feels very guilty. Humans are very complicated. Kevin is uncertain. He does not know what he should be feeling. And Liam, I can't. He's with Aki right now. She is manipulating his emotions with her Kansei. I cannot tell what is his and what is not. I'm not allowed to speak about that. I'm authorized to share anything that might aid your investigation. No dust settles here. It means that this place is quiet and safe from influence of the outside world. If you wish. Most are safety charms meant to ward off danger. They are the 4 legendary creatures: tortoise, dragon, phoenix, and tiger. Many things. Seasons, directions on the compass, sometimes schools of thought. Overall, they represent balance. The tiger and the dragon are mortal enemies. The dragon represents cunning and intelligence, and the tiger represents raw power and strength. Dragon and tiger, mind and body, they fight each other constantly, but neither can win. What bothers you?
He was told to destroy all of this. Old research, very old research that certain people in the government want to pretend never happened. It's a long story, kid. Let's put it this way. A few years ago, I stumbled upon a lot of things I wasn't supposed to. Specifically, an old experiment that William Otten was involved with. I got in a lot of trouble for what I saw. I was supposed to be erased from the system entirely, but I was given a second chance, transferred to Edgewater, and stopped the twins who were running around the city causing trouble. They figured if they stuck me here, I'd be out of the way and I'd have my hands full with the twins. I don't think they expected me to catch them so soon. I was Aki's arresting officer, yes, We technically never caught Naoki. Aki went down fighting so that he could escape. We spent 3 days looking for him and not a thing. Then, less than an hour after she cut a deal, he showed up on our doorstep to turn himself in, like magic. Part of me suspects that she planned it all in advance. That's a pretty strong claim. Are you sure? Is that so? This definitely warrants a closer look. I think I'll go speak with her about it. We can talk more about this later.
Hey. She's feeling better. Still a little shaken up, though. She was crying pretty hard when we found Mr. Otten's body.
Kansei, I hope you don't mind if I ask you something. How did you know that something bad happened to Mr. Otten?
That's...
Naoki, please. I was asking Kansei.
Sorry.
So, how did you know? A sixth sense? As in psychic? Can you give me details on how it works? I see. I suppose it's different then. Many years ago, Mr. Otten experimented with extending the mental capacities of human beings. It's not like what you described, though.
What sort of experiments?
I don't really know much about it. It was a long time ago, before I started working for him. He just mentioned it in passing once, so I thought maybe that had something to do with it. He was terribly drunk at the time, though, so I suppose he might not have even been telling the truth. I'm sorry, I'm jumping to the strangest conclusions here. I must not be in a very good frame of mind right now. I don't know what I'm going to do now that he's gone.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. I just really want to find the person who did this. If there's anything you need to know, just ask, okay?
What do I think? I think it's terrible. I really don't like having to see dead bodies. I really can't say. I don't want to make any judgments. Well, Liam is pretty angry with his uncle. His eyebrows went down every time he spoke about him. He covered his face when Aki started asking more questions, so he's got something to hide. I'm pretty sure Marissa's hiding something too. Every time she smiles, her eyebrows go up, as if she's worried. After she finished her interview with Mr. Otten, she was even more nervous than before. Sophia was pretty frustrated when we came, but now she's really anxious. She won't stop pacing back and forth. You mean that guy with the red hair? I didn't really get to see his face. Sorry. I've been studying body language for a while now. Feel free to come talk more if you want.
Mr. Otten values my services. I am a trained professional and an excellent personal assistant. I have personal reasons, but my employment is both legal and morally sound. A sleep study? I do recall one from about 20 years ago, government-sponsored. I believe he was working with a partner at the time. Of course I do. His name was Shen Guan. He was Liam's father. Mr. Guan and Mr. Otten were partners, and Shen later married Mr. Otten's sister. It's my understanding that Liam's name was changed when Mr. Otten took custody of him. Both Shen Guan and his wife died a long time ago. No need to apologize. It's in the past now. This was all before my time, of course. I'm only telling you what I've overheard. He was. Liam's actions were very costly in terms of both money and public image. Mr. Otten wanted to punish him for his cavalier attitude. Dogfighting a few months ago, that was the last straw. Last week, Mr. Otten informed Liam that he would no longer be inheriting anything. He was furious, naturally. He called Mr. Otten a selfish and greedy old man, and he said that he'd make him regret his decision. Mr. Otten never got around to doing it. A lawyer was scheduled to visit next week. As it stands, all of Mr. Otten's fortune now belongs to Liam. Of course.
Sorry, Con. I was just upstairs with Liam. Oh, don't look at me like that. It's not what you think. For your information, I was just asking Liam about the staff. Did you know that none of Mr. Otten's personal staff are paid? Well, then Kevin was lying. Let's just say that he strongly believes it's in his best interest to be truthful. Got it in one. Kevin's family owns a small business that's in serious trouble. Mr. Otten pulled a few strings to keep the creditors away, and they'll stay away as long as Kevin works for him. As for Sophia, it seems her husband's heart is failing. Mr. Otten promised to move him to the top of the recipient list for the company's new organ creation project. I have to admit, I'm actually kind of impressed. If we want to get to the bottom of this, we're going to need another look at the crime scene. Oh, I'm the last person he'd let in. But we don't need the real thing. We've got something just as good.
Hello.
I called him here, of course. This is what my Kansei is actually good for. Naoki, show us. Of course not. We're still in the main lobby. You're looking at Naoki's memory right now. My Kansei allows me to share the thoughts of whoever I touch. Have a look around, of course. Does anything look suspicious? So, what do you think? That's logical, but how could anyone poison his drink in the first place?
Maybe the killer poisoned the cognac before giving it to Mr. Otten.
So if we found out who gave him the cognac, we'd find the killer. Well, he did mention that his uncle likes to drink. It sure makes poisoning him easy though, huh? I see Miko has been talking to you. Well, I won't deny that we've done things on both sides of the law. But we're not just a bunch of criminals, okay? I have my reasons. But... good point. I wonder if there's a way to get him out of the room for a while. So what you're saying is, it is possible to enter without it. You just said that we could get it if we had a code. I'm pretty sure she already did.
What do you need?
Yeah. It's better than sending a text, although the range isn't that great. But first things first. I need a little favor, brother dearest.
Every time you say that we do something illegal.
Well, it's for a good cause.
You always say that too.
I suppose I do. But you'll help, right?
What do you want?
When you guys first opened Mr. Otten's office, you saw Sophia's security code, right? Well, we're just going to try a little experiment and see if it works on other doors, like the one on the security room. I'll distract Kevin while Con turns the power off. Kevin will no doubt head to the basement to fix the problem. Once the power's back on, Naoki will use Sophia's code to get the two of you access to the security room. I'll stall Kevin long enough for you two to get a quick look. See what you can get and get out of there. Got it?
Got it.
Good, then wait for my signal. Alright, Con, you're up. Good job. Now get out, and quick! Alright guys, get going! Con, Naoki, we're out of time. Get out of there! So, find anything? These numbers are pretty recent. I see a lot of references to other companies, but I'm not sure what they mean. I've got nothing. That's cool. We'll talk later.
Hey, Kansei, right? Just wondering if you were on good terms with that police dude. Huh. Well, that sucks. I told him I wanted to go, and he was all like, I can't leave because Uncle is something or other. What are you talking about? Wait, so that means... Well, there's irony for you. Oh, come on. What isn't ironic about it? The man makes artificial hearts for a living, but his own ticker fails on him? Why should I be? He was due for it soon enough with the way he was drinking. A heart attack, right? Yeah, figured as much. Well, that's that, I guess. Am I supposed to cry or something? I've lost family members before. Really, it's more annoying than anything else. Right. Can't believe I'm locked in this stupid place because of a stupid heart attack. Okay, officer. You win. I'll stay here in this stupid house for as long as you want.
Liam Otten! Just the man I wanted to see.
Yeah, I guess I am.
I'd like to interview you for the magazine Modern Trends, if you don't mind.
You're an interesting guy, Kansei. Well, for one, you keep some interesting company. I was bored, so I decided to run facial recognition on them. I found quite a few newsreels about them, complete with security camera footage and mugshots. I admit, I literally laughed out loud at the one where they sold ownership shares to the Space Needle. Oh, you didn't know? Like I said, you keep some interesting company. Weirdly enough, when I looked up their police records, they were completely empty. They haven't been charged with anything. The other girl with you is the real problem, though. I couldn't find a single thing on her. No online profile, no yearbook, no images of her anywhere, and no connection to anything your other friends did. Dude, seriously? You've gotta make a real effort to be that much of a ghost. There's no way that the government isn't involved in trying to cover something up. Oh, come on, it's not like that. Besides, how much do you know about her anyway? Of course you do. You're the genius detective, after all. Genius siblings solve another cold case. I gotta admit, you're actually kinda cool. So are you on a super secret mission right now or something? You know, since you're using a fake name and hanging out with criminals and stuff. Well, that's disappointing. It would be cooler if it were. Come by if you want to ask me anything else.
Oh, hi again. Oh, her? She went to the bathroom, I think. Did you want something? What? Are you a reporter too? Oh, right. You're with Aki. She said you guys were economics students studying Uncle's business practices. Well, you can ask me anything you want, I guess. But I don't really pay attention to what Uncle did. Who told you that? Well, the answer is no. Uncle never did anything like that, and if anyone is saying things like that, they're lying. He made a promise to Mom too, you know. Said he'd take care of me. There's no way he'd cut me out of his will. Listen, sometimes he might just say things to, you know, try to convince me. He doesn't really mean it, though. He does that all the time, though. So? No, he was just trying to scare me, like he always does. There's nothing more to it than that. Lots of people, I guess. This is stupid. I don't have to tell you anything if I don't feel like it. Well, Sophia and Kevin, yes. He said that in order to trust someone, money can't be involved in the equation. What, you think one of them killed Uncle? What would they have to gain? If he's dead, it's not like he could pay them. You're asking weird questions. What's this really about? Oh, hey! Sorry, dude. Didn't see you there. Yeah, just heading back upstairs to my room. There's like nothing to watch on TV. Yeah? Yeah, okay, shoot. Why is it that that's all anyone ever talks about? Sure, whatever, yes. Because I was bored, duh. Oh, please. Animals fight all the time in nature, so why shouldn't we throw a little money on it? Yeah, okay. Forget I asked. Let me guess. You're a vegetarian. Yeah, I figured as much. I'm really not in the mood for another lecture. I'm out of here. Ah!
What are you talking about? Sort of. Well, when I push a thought into someone's mind, it can be anything. An idea, a desire, or in some cases, a simple scream. It has a sort of disorienting effect. Confuses the senses momentarily. Comes in handy more than you'd expect. You could be impressed and disgusted. Impressed?
Well then, that's an interesting turn of events. Do you know why? That would do it. Am I to assume that Mr. Alton never actually got around to making this all-important change in his will? Great. All right then.
Has someone been talking about my husband? That boy. Yes, my husband's heart is failing, and Alton Engineering is the only company with the technology to keep him alive. Mr. Alton allowed my husband preferential treatment in exchange for my services. I may not receive a paycheck, but I value my husband's well-being even more. Now please do not pry any further into my private life. Those are some of his ledgers from one of his smaller companies. Well, he's bought most of them up under various names or through organizations that he heads. Meaning that his ownership of these companies is not readily evident. Yes. Many of these companies are financial institutions. His ownership of them could be seen as a conflict of interest with his business decisions at Alton Engineering. Sadly, I could name several. Mr. Alton wasn't a very popular man in the business world. His most recent project stepped on a lot of toes. Organ replication. Alton Engineering is concerned mostly with mechanical organs like artificial hearts or lungs, but lately Mr. Alton has been trying to find a way to grow organs from living tissue. The process involves taking a tissue sample from the patient and using it to recreate the organ they need replaced. It ensures compatibility, and it allows for replacement of things impossible to substitute with mechanics, for instance bone marrow. The end goal was to be able to recreate any and all parts of the human body when necessary. Well, under certain circumstances it is. Of course, technicalities aside, the ethics of such research. Well, there were the obvious protests, demonstrations, and death threats. I didn't think it was important. But none of them seemed like serious concerns. Besides, Mr. Alton received death threats for lots of his work. I didn't think this would be any different. He saved a lot of lives with his work, but people have died because of him too. Once in a while, one of the organs built by Alton Engineering malfunctions and someone dies as a result. It's not a common occurrence by any means, but they are tragic, and Mr. Otten often receives the full hatred of the victim's family. And of course, it's very expensive to get a replacement organ. People have gone into debt over them, and that brings about much hatred as well. It's really not as simple as that. It's possible to do good things with bad intention. I'm sorry, I really don't know much more than this. The only thing I know about his work is what I wrote for his press releases. I know he kept copies of all of his research, but I'm afraid I wouldn't know where to look. That's an odd question. Is there any reason you want to know? Are you sure? Well, you don't think his cognac was poisoned, do you? If he were poisoned, what kind of poison are we talking about? Why didn't I remember until now? This poison we're talking about, is it a sort of clear, oily liquid? I just hope it's still here. Here. I found this in the incinerator yesterday. We burn our garbage daily. I pulled it out because it belongs in the recycling. When I picked it up, I got some of the contents on my hands. It's not water. The texture is more like oil. Because I felt ill all yesterday after I touched it. The same exact symptoms you spoke of. What if it's the poison? What if the killer tried to throw it away? No one in this house puts recycling in the incinerator. Mr. Otten has very strict rules, and we've always followed them. This is the only time I've ever seen something out of place. Please, just look at it!
Whoa, you two look like you're in a hurry.
And what is it?
It's the poison! Or what's left of it, at least.
Fair enough. So who did it?
The IT guy?
But how did he do it? How'd he get into the office? I thought no one was allowed in. Is that true?
Yes, he's never used the master code, but it does exist.
So he had means and opportunity. What about a motive?
Revenge? For what?
What am I looking at?
So Kevin would bear a grudge against Mr. Otten for cheating his family and using him.
That's a good enough motive for me. And he's the only person with the means to do it. Meaning that we'll probably find his fingerprints all over it. What is that?
The house is coming out of lockdown. Kevin must be unlocking all the doors.
Kevin isn't going to leave through the front. We never let him past us. Sophia, what other exits are there?
There's an emergency door in the museum.
Li Mei!
Is there any way to lock all the doors again?
There's a panic box upstairs that...
Don't explain it, just go! Kevin, we know you're in there! Kevin!
Don't move!
Kevin, it's okay. We're just going to talk.
What if I don't want to talk? I'm not stupid!
No, you're very intelligent. You should know that Sophia's locking the doors and there's nowhere to go. So why don't you just put that knife down and let us talk?
You're lying!
Kevin, please. Just let her go.
You think I'm gonna give up my only bargaining chip? Ah!
Right.
Mr. Otten! Mr. Otten!
He doesn't have a pulse.
No! He was just alive a moment ago!
What are you doing?
There's still a chance I can save him! Please help me!
Con guy, help us move the body.
One, 2, 3, 4.
That's enough.
What are you doing? There's still a chance!
Look at him. His skin is pale, his pupils are dilated, and he's covered in sweat. There's a good chance he was poisoned. And you could be poisoned too if you try to resuscitate him. Don't. You did your best, but there's nothing we can do now. Sophia, everything's going to be okay.
Lee May said he's gone. What happened? Did you know, see it? What's the vault? We should find Aki. She'll know what to do.
She's coming.
Hey, what happened? The lights went out for a moment. Died? How? Did you read his last moments? Interesting. I haven't seen any vaults around here, but I assumed that it would be hidden.
The police are on their way. It's a bit of a drive for them, so we'll have to sit tight until then. I suggest we all wait downstairs. As I don't have any jurisdiction here, it's only a suggestion. But it's the best option if you want to stay unnoticed.
Always the gentleman. Nothing. Anyway, we should probably follow his suggestion and head downstairs. We wouldn't want to get into any more trouble than we already are.
It's not you.
It means that Miko shouldn't talk so much.
Do you truly want to know?
I don't know where you've been all these years or why, but that look in your eyes is still the same. I assume most rich people do. Why do you ask? That's a strange thing to be curious about. Although, looking at his lifestyle, I'm actually inclined to think that any vault he cares about would be in this house. He rarely leaves the house, and security here is tight, even for a high-ranking official. It's obvious that he has trust issues. Someone like him wouldn't let a bank hold on to something important. Besides, I'm sure he'd want to keep a close eye on it too. If there's a vault, it's definitely somewhere in here. Talk to you later.
Holy cow! Murdered? I didn't see that one coming. I guess that's what he meant. Mr. Otten never liked to talk about his history. Anytime someone asked, he'd always say that he buried his past a long time ago. Once, when he'd had a little too much to drink, he told me that he was afraid that one day his past would come back and return the favor. Man, dead? Really? Sorry, that's just too weird. I'm still having a hard time believing it. So, are the police gonna question us all and stuff? Well, I guess I'll hang out here until then. I'll be in the security room if you need me. It's the first door on the left here in this hallway. A vault? Can't say I do. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably in his office. It's the most secure place around here, after all. Although, I can't think of anything he might have that's more valuable than that precious artifact collection of his. He sunk more money than I care to think about buying all that old stuff up. Maybe that old museum of his is the vault. He certainly loves it enough. He wanders in there all the time, just to look at stuff. That room has so much stuff he cares about. You could probably say it's his vault. There's a blind spot right here. Anything under the camera won't show up on the monitor. It's the only place in the house with such a massive blind spot. I keep telling Mr. Otten that we should reposition the camera, but he refuses. Come by if you want to ask me anything else.
It's locked. It is a puzzle box. You must rearrange the panels on the side to open the doors. I I will do it. I want to help. Aki does not let me work because she worries about me. But there's no danger with this. I can be useful again. This will take some time. Please return later. I don't know. Does it bother you? Death. He was very scared. Yes, but even though I felt his fear, I knew that I was not scared. I'm not scared, but I still feel scared. Does that mean I'm bothered or not bothered? That is only the first door. The key is in the place between mind and body. I have already searched this room, but I cannot find it. You're excited.
So, did you find anything?
Where did you find that?
Then we'd better have a look at it. Why would we do that? If it's important, we'll let him know about it eventually. Besides, it's not like the police would have found that anyway, so they're not missing out on anything. So what are we waiting for? Let's have a look at this.
A lot of this is pretty complicated stuff.
No kidding. It looks like Mr. Otten's been working on some sort of secret project for quite some time. Oh hey, a video file! Wow, lousy camera quality.
Where was this taken?
It looks like security camera footage. The angle's very high.
So Mr. Otten was spying on someone? That's creepy.
Khan, this guy in the video? That's you.
You're excited.
Since when? Right.
He's panicking.
Stay there! I have to get out of here! Not for long. We're coming out of a lockdown. In a few seconds, the doors will unlock, and I'll be home free. Yeah, you're kinda slow to the party. Your friends already figured that out.
Con! Kevin is the murderer! Hang in there, we're coming to get you.
Why? Are you kidding? He took advantage of my family. He ruined their lives, and it's my fault. I had to.
Kevin! Kevin, we know you're in there!
Kong, I don't.
Not bad, kid.
Thank you.
You can thank me later. And you pass out every time you use your Kansei. I could teach you how to control it if you want. How to stay conscious. It'll take a while for you to get it right, but I get the feeling you'll be stuck with us for a while. I hope you don't mind. Hopefully today isn't as eventful as yesterday. I feel like celebrating our mission accomplished by doing absolutely nothing. Good point. Well, either way, we don't have any work today. We might as well enjoy it.
detective.
Great. Well, hello, Miko. What brings you to this corner of the world?
Oh, I don't know. I guess I just assumed that you want to know what happened with Kevin. We found his prints in the bottle that Sophia brought us. Once we showed him, he pled guilty. He added liquid nicotine to Mr. Otten's cognac and simply waited for him to drink it. When you showed up that day, Mr. Otten had a panic attack, and he went to the bottle for comfort. We wound up killing him instead.
What's going to happen to Mr. Otten's estate now?
Hard to say. Technically, it belongs to Liam, but we're having trouble finding him. He ran off during all the confusion. Guess he didn't want to be arrested for his own crimes.
So he's still out there somewhere?
Don't worry, we'll find him. We always do.
You don't have to tell me, officer.
Well, I'll be seeing you kids around. Try to stay out of trouble, okay?
Anything you say, sir.
Hey, you here or what? I got the stuff you wanted.
I'm here. No need to shout, Liam.
Yeah, whatever. This is all I could get. I kinda had to sneak out the back before the police arrested me, too.
What did I tell you about staying out of trouble?
Are you gonna lecture me now or something? It's not like I could have gotten anything else anyway. That Detective Gursky insisted on keeping most of these papers as evidence.
Evidence? How did he even find it in the first place?
He didn't. That Kansei kid found it.
Kansei?
Some new guy hanging out with the twins and that China doll.
Did he have dirty blonde hair dyed black at the ends?
Yeah, you know him?
You should have stopped him.
Oh, come on. What did you want me to do? Kill him?
Yes, it's what I would have done.
Well, as you and Father are so fond of pointing out, I'm not like you.
Pity, really. Well, at least you finally managed to do your job. How many years did it take you again?
Oh, don't even start. I did what you told me to do. So you'll leave me alone now, right?
You're free to go. Go enjoy the rest of your pitiful life, Liam. There's not much left of it after all.